So I did a first pass of trying to find my local colors. Finally I decided, as I was expecting it, I decided to let it go of a lot of this first texture pass that I did for the toad, which I believe is here. Maybe I'll bring some of this texture back, a bit of this texture back later. I don't know, I'll see. But I think right now it's safer to concentrate on the big shapes and make really simple statement at the shape level to make sure that the image reads properly. I really like this kind of magenta pinkish umbrella. I think it really helps in the storytelling I want to convey, to have this really bizarre character with hanging himself to this pink umbrella and fishing with a kid. I've also been messing around with the background, trying to decide if I really wanted to go for something extremely silhouetted like this, which really helps to make this character here read very clearly. But I'm not. I think I don't really like the issue I have right now here is I feel that all these textures in the background can become a bit messy and prevent the proper understanding of what is happening in here. And this is something I'm trying to achieve more and more now in my images, is to have the main statement to be extremely readable in the first 2 seconds. And I think here it really helps to make this statement very, very clear, which is the mouth of this fish who is going to try to bite into this kid. But storytelling wise, I think this blue sky, I see 2 issues. First, I think it's super boring at a color standpoint. So it's really big, blue, boring shape in the background, even if I'm adding some texture, clouds, and I don't know. I think it's a bit boring, so this is not really something I like to bring in this image right now. And also I think it brings too much hope and joyfulness in the overall background. So this is why afterward I tested this, which is closer to my initial idea. The initial idea I had with my value was to have like some sort of mid-gray in the background. And I think this one works a bit better because it's darker, it's definitely less joyful than the first alternative. So I think the challenge here will be to really make sure that this background help to read what is happening in the foreground. But at the same time, I don't want to simplify this background too much. I don't want to have like these characters that are existing in a separate, almost cutout space than this background, like we would have in animation. I'd like them to integrate a bit better with the background. So I think for this I need to keep some indication of texture and directionality in my plants in the background. So yeah, I think this is what I will go for. The second point I noticed when I opened my document is that all my colors are way too much saturated, and this is something that happened to me all the time. I usually tend to oversaturate my colors, and this is often a struggle for me because once I'm used to very saturated colors and to the vibrancy of these colors, it starts to really become difficult to temper these colors down. So I will try to achieve it at 2 levels, at the local color levels. with the textures and so on, and also later in the stack, higher in the stack. So I think this depth that I crafted, this overall atmospheric perspective is I think it's too much monochromatic, so this is something I want to fix. I would like to keep some more color variation in my background, so I really need to do something about it, and to find which layers tend to saturate too much the colors and destroy the local colors and the variety that these local colors can bring to the overall piece. So this one is definitely responsible about that. So I'm going to desaturate that layer a bit and maybe turn it down. So here the challenge is, how am I going to organize the contrast around this umbrella? Do I want a lighter background, or a background which is kind of the same value but is going to read thanks to the hue shift? So the way I'm switching from color to black and white, it's with this feature here, which is proof color. So in Photoshop you can use this proof setup menu here, and when you go into custom, you can select one of these black and white color profile that you'll find here. I think they all bring the same result. By habit, I'm choosing this 2.2 gamma, but really it's just a habit. I think they all achieve the same effect. And now with Ctrl Y, I can switch between color and black and white. So this is very, very convenient. And another nice thing that you can do is to use this window menu arrange and create a new window. And now I can take this window here, size it down near, for example, my navigator window, and use the Ctrl Y shortcut in this window here. So now this way I can have like both a black and white view of my image and the main color version. So this is also something very, very convenient. So same thing here, I'm trying to decide whether or not this is bringing something interesting. So these both layers are for the background which is painted. I'm going to let them just... Anyway, this one, what do I have in here? A small gradient also, but it's covered by the paint over layer. So just let's compare to what I had before. So I think now I shifted my values a bit toward a darker value. So now the umbrella is less readable at the value level, but it still reads very well at the color level. So I have to see how I can help this reading later on, maybe with painting some highlight on the grass in the background. I don't know. I'll have to try something. But I think right now it's more interesting because there is more color variety in the background. So it's going to be more interesting and less boring, because now I think this first version here tends to be more boring. I'm using this word for myself a lot. I think an image you don't want, obviously, I know you know this, sorry for stating it, but you don't want your image to feel boring at any level. So sometimes it's important to design resting area in the image, so the eye can really focus on what matters. For example, this big blade of grace in the background, they are more quiet, there is less details, less texture, so it's more of a resting area. Same thing maybe here in this background. And yeah, this rock, I think I don't want to over texture this rock, so they can stay quite yeah, they can act as a resting area too. But it's maybe a bit too much saturated still, so I think I'm going to do something here at the mood level to overall desaturate my colors, because I don't want to calibrate my eye on these oversaturated colors, because later I think it's going to be very, very hard to desaturate them. Not technically, but it's going to be hard for me to be able to perceive a nice overall gamut at a less desaturated tone. So I prefer to maybe exaggerate the desaturation overall right now, so later I'll be able to bring back some more saturation, because right now here it's really a lot. So one thing I think is that red on the frog now is really too neutral, so I need to do something. So I'm going to switch off all this layer to see what I have without any interaction. So as I said before, sometimes it's really difficult to obtain some color combinations or some kind of materials only by using this simple combination of this lighting layer on hard light and this underneath local colors layer. So for example, if I'm trying here to select maybe just the reds here and bring like a super saturated layer just to see. Well, actually it works. It works quite okay in terms of how can I say that? Of overall gamma perception, the overall contrast I have between my shader areas and my little areas. I think it works, but now I need to make this work with the underneath texture. So maybe I'll use I don't know, overlay layer, yeah. Okay, so the issue now I have is that I lost all of the color variation I had in the first place. So, but once again, it's really sculpting with light and colors, so I can go too strong for now and maybe tone that back later. Adjustment and paint over. I know this depth is going to be quite challenging to manage. Right now it's still, I think, way too strong. Well, actually I think having slightly darker values in the background kind of help in reading some of the foreground shape, especially the kid. Here the skin tone of the kid here, and his shirt is a bit lost in the background, whereas if I'm lowering down the value, it starts to read a little better. So maybe I want to keep something like that, and I can play with this depth map at other level. Let's see, before, after. Yeah, I think this version reads less. Right now it doesn't read as well as this one, but I think the subtlety at the color level are more interesting. I try to find a balance where I can maintain the overall vibrancy of the color without having its color too saturated. Yeah, and now I need to do something for the underneath layer, because I think I lost quite of the interest, a lot of the interest of the initial texture pass I did. So I will simply copy this initial texture pass and bring it on top of everything. And I'm still unable to bring this texture quality I'd like to get, so let's try to move this here and use now an overlay. Soft light, hard light. I'm going to remove with Ctrl Alt click, remove the red selection and use a mask. And this isn't the proper, I think, fusion mode, but let's try to play with the values again. Dark. It's less of a darker shade like that, but I want to bring back some of this texture quality. So let's try to maybe desaturate this or shift. No, it wasn't the proper. Maybe just desaturate a bit. Completely. Yeah, I think this is this overall texture underneath is killing a bit of the interest. And I think I don't have. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because it's acting, but not that much. Not that much, sorry. Okay, no big deal. Okay, so maybe now I can push that down. Not easy to find the proper balance. I'm looking at my values right now. I'm trying to decide if I'm bringing enough contrast between these two parts of the skin. And now it's a bit strong. So I'm going to mask everything here and use my airbrush to just paint in some areas. Just to bring back some of these texture indications that I was liking in the first place. Okay, before, now, before, now. Yeah, as we can see in black and white, before it was almost impossible to tell the difference between the two main materials of the towel, and I think now it reads a little bit better. Oh yeah, that's why something was missing. Let's see. To mask everything again, mask, only select the towel, and maybe use this lighter path just to emphasize some part of the anatomy to help to read the shape. Okay, so maybe it helps a bit to understand what is the shape of the neck underneath. And I also want to break a bit this hard edge here. It doesn't feel very natural. Yeah, maybe emphasize the lips a bit. So I will continue to mess around with my colors and my values. I think overall right now I'm closer to what I want, definitely. But now that I brought back a lot of contrast in many elements, it starts to be difficult to read again. So I will need to really work attentively now on my background to make sure I'm organizing the values in the background in a way that really helps to read each of these elements. So this is what I'm going to do right now. Really sketch my values, organize the shadows of the patterns of light and shadows in order to have a background that really work with the foreground and help the audience to immediately understand what this is about, instead of having this background fighting against this foreground and creating visual noise and preventing a proper reading of the image. So I continue to try to reorganize my values so they can work with my foreground, and also trying to simplify the shapes of the background, because I want to have like these few simple shapes, a bit aggressive shapes that can reflect the mouth of the creature. So I like the idea to have like this teeth in the background that goes in different direction, and I try to simplify some of these shapes. So at some places it looks terrible because this is only rough. See here, it really looks terrible, but this is just a rough, and after that I'll make sure to have the same texture quality that I have in here, and the same texture lighting without all of these small brush strokes that doesn't work really well with the rest of the background. So I think obviously this is much easier, and even what we had in the first place with the really bright sky and so on. So it's easier to read with a bright sky and a really bright value in the background. But I think it's less oppressive, and it works not as well as what we have right now at the storytelling level. Because as I said before, I really want the background to feel oppressive, and kind of the same mood and value that we would have with a storm, when the storm is coming to a place, but you still have a lot of sun. So the danger is almost there, it's coming, but it's not there yet. So I think this is the kind of mood I want to suggest for this scene. I'm going to use a lot of other artifice and tricks to help separate the image. I think for this fish right now I'm going to play with brighter values from the this splattered water of the fish going out of the water. I'm going to cheat a bit by adding maybe some water where it shouldn't be, because maybe due to the direction of the fish the water will be more behind it. But I'm going to cheat a bit, I think, and I'm going to use some of these brighter values, because right now when I'm looking at my black and white windows or my navigator, I think it's really difficult to understand what is happening with the tail of the fish. And I really want my vignette to read as well as I can. So I have to make sure that I'm separating enough the shape of the fish from the shape of the tongue, and maybe yes, from the water and so on, so we can really understand this is a fish at the first read. There is a lot of small challenges at the thumbnail level. I think at the thumbnail level the main character, I don't know if it's the main character, but this character at least works quite okay. I think for the child it starts to become a bit more difficult, but in the meantime he's in an upside down position, and he's completely in an uncomfortable position, and also the simple usage of a kid to fish is the main point I want to sell in this image, which is completely absurd and really nasty and really abusive. And even though the child look playful and joyful, I think the fact that he's not reading as well as the other character at the first read, it can help also to engage the viewer into trying to solve this shape. So I think when the viewer is going to read first this image, I want him to see this fish. I want him to understand there is someone with an umbrella kind of fishing. Yeah, maybe the tongue is going to be a second read to understand what this shape is, but the frog, I'm going to add this characteristic toad eyes that will help you, I think, identify the shape as the first read. But maybe the child is going to be a second read. You know, the viewer is going to wander around this bright and red and okay, figure out, okay, this is the character upside down, and okay, this guy is fishing. Yeah, this is very, very nasty. He's fishing with a kid. So these are all the little problem I'm trying to solve, and I'm trying to think about to make choices, and I'm trying to make choices based on the story I want to tell, and not necessarily the most efficient choices at a composition level. At least I'm trying to have the composition to be at the service of the storytelling and not the opposite way. So yeah, let's get back into time-lapse mode.